Christa, welcome to the Beyond Technology podcast. So good to have you today on this nice snowy day.
It is.
I'd love to just kick it off nice and easy. Tell me about your business and what do you do?
My name is Christa Hill, and I am the CEO of Tacit Edge Product Leadership. And we are at the intersection of everyone learning the technical skills that they need to manage AI for the future. And so we drive literacy across the country by authoring curriculum and creating courses for every single Canadian. It doesn't matter where they are, if they're in elementary school, in the trades, professionals, or within organizations, so that they can understand how technology, people, and processes will work together in the future. And of course, all of this rotates around the axis of AI right now, which is an amazing opportunity for us to be writing curriculum that's at the forefront of technology as it's moving in real time. And that's what we do.
Great. That's amazing. This question I ask to everybody is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And that might be tricky.
Retired.
Retired.
I mean, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
The robots can do everything.
If I'm doing it right. But I don't even really know what retirement means for me. My co-founder, Renee, who's not even 40 yet, is already semi-retired. So we have a plan around the lifestyle that we wanted to create with this business, not the empire. But when you do what you love to do every day and you jump out of bed to do what I do every day and to have these conversations and then go meet with other folks and talk to them about their journey, it's not work. So I sort of see myself as already retired because I live in joy every day, which I think is what the goal is for retirement, right? So in 10 years, I want to be doing exactly this kind of stuff and then working with even cooler tools that will just now be possible with really cool people.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, lots of new technology in your world. So I'd love to hear a story about, some recent thing that you've solved that was pretty big using technology.
I couldn't take the credit for myself. As you know, I've got a lot of students and they are building every day. And so I have about 6 or 7 classes going in a week at a time. Within that, that's a force multiplier of all the things that I'm seeing built in front of me, solving a lot of problems in industry in various ways. But I have to say some of the hugest, most interesting gains are in the realm of sales and in industrial companies, especially legacy organizations inside of Alberta that have a lot of data around their customers and their industry, and they're trying to make it useful. And there was one individual actually 2 nights ago who demoed for the class's final project coming out of our course. And it was a series of automations that would scrape their competitor sites that matched it to their own internal data that also monitored their pricing in correlation to their competitors. And then it sent everyone a voice memo every morning that all the sales team could listen to on the way into the office.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a formal recording. It was really fun, and it poked fun at their company and a few individuals. It was super punchy. And if you know the personality of this individual, you would know that it could be a little off color, some of the jokes, but it was just hilarious. And what a way to start your day, especially if you're, again, in an industrial company and you're selling a physical product, to have that kind of heads up on a change in a pricing that a competitor had last night. These are insights that they never had before, or they would all as individuals inside the team be going after in individual ways. But now they're coming into the office every morning with a shared understanding of what's going on in the industry. And it's a whole different tone in the day. Right. And these are relatively non-technical people that are building these automations and are learning these skills. And this is, I mean, like I said, it's a dream come true to get to watch what is happening out there and what's attainable for people in this environment.
Yeah, and then being able to keep it fun and on brand for that person too is
100%. And you could tell, like, when I talk about this a lot, that technology allows you to lean into your gifts as an individual. And this person, they've got a slapstick style. And for him to lean into those gifts and then have it expressed in tech is, I think, one of the most joyous ways to be working in technology.
Yeah, interesting you say that, because I'm a big dad joke proponent, and so
it was all over this. You would have loved it.
Yeah, one of my first Microsoft Teams automations was a flow that every day at noon it posts a message saying "Hello nerds" and then a dad joke,
yeah,
random dad joke, and then it reminds everybody it's time for lunch. So that was one of my first automations I
There you
built
go.
in Teams. So tell me a story or an example of maybe a big, failure or waste of time that somebody was like, oh, I want to try to do this, but they weren't able to, or something fell apart.
That's tough because in every failure, there's a huge amount of learnings. And in my world, and when I talk about product management and that practice of failing forward and failing at a discount and having it not put you out of business, but taking all the nuggets of that failure and having it feed the next thing, which is likely to now be more successful because you're not going to repeat the same mistakes if you're practicing,
Yeah.
right? So I would say to you that I've seen a lot of catastrophic over investments in a product. I see this a lot in our startup community that we overbuild because we want to make sure it's shiny and amazing and it looks like you've thought of everything. But that is the biggest risk in a build that you can have, is worrying about what people are going to think about it. So I think that is I would say the most chronic mistake I see repeatedly, is that we should have spent $15,000, got to this point, instead of 150, got over here. And now we've blown through this runway over here. And what if of the 150,000 we spent, only the $15,000 feature that we could have launched with was the thing that hit, and we want to build on that. But now we're out of money because we built a whole bunch of stuff that other people aren't using. So I would say if there's one lesson that I see repeatedly over and over in industry, and usually I get brought in over here because they've run out of money and they're like, what do we do now? And I'm like, let's get scrappy, let's get cheap, let's get it into the market, and let's run lean. And that's usually how we survive. But yeah, common lesson.
So start small and fail fast, I guess.
And yeah, just fail cheap. The speed isn't even the issue anymore. It's more just get into the market as quick as you can with the least amount that you can. And then don't worry if your buddies walk up to you and say, well, have you thought of, or, have you seen this other version of this thing? And I think it's our fear of being caught looking like we hadn't thought of everything. That is the number one crater for all that capital. That could be, gosh, if we didn't have to worry about that, I think we would all have a lot more cash in our pockets.
Yeah. And I guess figuring out what your customer wants the most is kind of the starting point, and then starting small from there.
Yeah, because honestly, I'd rather be rich than be right. And this is when I talk to founders and they're afraid to go ask their customers what they want because they think they've got it all figured out. But again, if you want to be successful in this world, your idea just brought you into the arena, but it will be your customers that will really grow the arena for you. So again, if anybody could take that one quote and hear it in their head over and over and over again, it's way more fun to be rich than it is to be right about your product.
Very cool. How do you navigate or teach people how to decide whether to use technology to solve a problem, or maybe to not use technology to solve a problem?
I think technology solves a lot of problems, especially now. So I would say to you maybe 6 months ago that I am a huge fan of just drawing something out, going in to stand on a street corner where I think one of my customers or potential customers might be, and just hang out there and ask some questions. Now I know my network is quite vast, so I would be able to pick the right corner to stand on to get in front of the people that I think might need this, if I know enough about the ideal customer profile that somebody's going after. But I think now with the advent of incredible tools like lovable.dev and gamma.app, we can create an experience and electronically put it in front of customers in ways that we didn't have access to for free in an afternoon, not even 6 or 7 months ago. So I think that when someone's coming to me with a problem that we want to solve, but usually it comes in the form of, I want to build an app and it's going to do this thing. And I'm like, oh, that is so amazing. But what is the problem that app is going to solve? Let's get down to that. And then if we can create an experience that is a test to see if we can solve that problem, we need to make sure, did we solve it in a way that people care about? Did we solve a jugular gusher level problem that we know is going to get them to open their wallets really fast for us to keep solving it? Or was it like a paper cut problem and we proved that we could do it, but they're not going to keep coming back to us? So I think that is really my process, is using that product management methodology. And because AI is a product, technology is a product, it's how I reduce risk by asking myself, what could I do this afternoon for free to learn more about that problem and to see how bad it is for people? How much would they pay to get it solved? And that's my approach for everything.
So is it spending more time in front of the customer or potential customer up front?
Yeah, because you either pay now or pay later, right? And I say this with my development teams a lot over the years, on release night. How much are we going to have are we going to feel confident that we can release this thing on a Friday afternoon and go like, we're good? And if the answer is no, then I know we didn't do enough work up front to test to make sure we were okay. So I think that is always a litmus test, right? If we put this out into the world, do they already know it's coming? Are they excited to see it? Is there a wait list for it? Are people going to line up to get access to it? And I want that answer to be yes. So the whole idea of if we build it, they will come is absolute garbage. It is not true. And I think as humans, what gets in the way is us just being afraid to put it in front of people and hear that it sucks.
Yeah.
Right. But again, I would rather be rich than right. And so I always use that to force myself to take that next step and to walk that with founders and with teams and just say, this is uncomfortable. But when you're uncomfortable, it's when you know you're doing it right.
Yeah. I find nowadays, compared to maybe 15 years ago, there's just so much access to information and people know what's possible. And so there's less of but clients know what they're looking for now more than they did maybe 15 years ago. Before somebody would come out with an app and say, oh, that's a great idea nobody ever thought of.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't happen as much anymore.
No, there's not a lot of unique problems in the world anymore, right? And you've been in the game for probably as long as I have. And somebody said to me once a long time ago that there aren't new problems to solve. There's only new technology and cool people to try on as we keep solving the same old problems over and over again, right?
What are some non-tech ways of working that you refuse to give up?
I think getting out of the office, right? Like I have not worked in a conventional office in a really long time. And I would say that there's been a traditional style of work in our industry, which is like this open area sort of scenario where we're all gathered together and we're in person. And I don't want to give up my own space and how I live part-time in my RV with my Starlink and my office built in the back and just, but technology fuels that. So I'm actually not even answering the question correctly. So much of my day-to-day life is powered by technology and makes the quality of my life that I have better. Mm-hmm. But I would say the basic things, like the tangible things that I like to do with my hands, either like great penmanship and writing. I do enjoy writing, but I do find that I'm losing my stamina for it as I get older. So I am defaulting to a lot of voice tools, but I think there is something to me about a pen and paper that is really powerful. But that's pretty much all that's left in my life that isn't dominated by tech, but only because of the way that my brain works and being on the spectrum the way that I am. These tools have really unlocked a new gear for me and help keep me organized in ways that makes my thinking and my way of work possible. So I would say that I've leaned into the opportunity of technology more than I've run from it.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you see features come out and they're a bit clunky and so they never catch on and then they eventually get to the point where they're just seamless, right? Yeah. Like I think Apple's a big proponent of that kind of release methodology, right? But even like drag in dictation, that was like 20 plus years ago. But now people are using voice way more than they were back then.
Yeah.
Because it's just you press a button now and then it actually works. And then it formats it nicely now.
And can organize my thinking.
Yeah, you can, and you get a mind map from it and all of these other extras that you didn't have before. And obviously we can talk faster than we can type, right? Yeah.
Especially me. My brain does move quite quickly and I can see through to a future where the problem is solved quite quickly. And so for me to be able to record that vision for someone, and I have to say it really helps in one-on-one conversations because as someone is talking to me about their product and their company, I'm listening to their words, but I'm also taking in all of the editing that they are doing and I'm stripping away that editing and I can restate it back to them in a way that is plain language that is really quite beautiful and powerful. And I'm really grateful for technology tools that it can record moments like that. Again, just using a lot of voice So I think the power of technology has allowed me to be even more human and take advantage of the more human elements of what makes me me. So I can't answer that question for you in a very normal way because I'm just not
That's
normal.
great.
I'm going to lean into my weirdness. There
That's
you
awesome. Yeah, I think just the technology lets you focus on maybe more of the like nonverbal things that they're saying, the emotions, and what's really getting them excited, because then you can dig into that in the work you do,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
If you could wave a magic wand and fix one tech issue or process, what would it be?
I think the fear of not being enough, of overbuilding, right? We talked about that before. It puts so many people out of the game. And what I would love to do is have everybody know that everybody's figuring it out one day at a time, just like everyone else. So a lot of people think in order to, change the world or build some tech that's going to improve life or whatever it is their vision is, that they need a skill before they can do that skill. And I want them to know that that's not true. They can bring their imagination for how the world might be better because of their thing that they want to build. And there are the right people in our network always that can point us in the right direction. Maybe not fast in a way that we would want to. It's not always instant, but I think that skill before the skill that we have, and we see it out in the world of AI right now. A lot of people are slow to adopt because they think they need to understand how to prompt. And, if you can talk to a 5-year-old and get a 5-year-old to put on their snowsuit, you know what a huge ordeal it is to get a toddler out into extreme weather conditions. You have all the skills you need to prompt.
For sure.
Right? It's one step at a time, one task at a time, one piece of context at a time to get to the next thing that we want to do. And so just to strip away that you have to be a certain type of individual to use technology or to build something with it, I wish we could just have that disappear. That would make me happy.
Yeah, I think people are just so used to technology being difficult, and they need to bring in an expert to do all the work, and that's kind of going away, right?
It is. And we've used technical language to alienate people too, so they don't come into our little club.
Yeah.
Right? I hate to admit this, but I've sat in a lot of rooms over the years where extreme technical language has been used to silence someone in the business because you just don't understand. And I think we're in an age now where people are losing their grip on that power. And it gets me really excited because I've, crafted an entire business around saying to people, you didn't have to be technical to be in tech. What I'm saying now is I've changed my mind. You do have to get a little bit more technical if you want to engage and build AI, but that on-ramp is so short, and it is literally 2 weeks with hanging out with somebody like me, and all of a sudden you have a whole new vocabulary. You just need to be surrounded with it. So it's not a skill you need to get started. Just get around the right people, start absorbing the vocabulary, and then just watch the wings start to appear on your back.
Yeah, it's getting pretty simple. I think it's funny. People, they're always asking me, how do I start? How do I get started? How do I start solving this problem? And my answer is ask AI.
Yeah,
right?
and just start.
Just
ask. AI. Yeah,
like
go in and ask the question.
It's the best thing to teach you how to use it. And that's an interesting kind of paradigm shift, because most software is built the opposite way up until today, right?
Well, and if you didn't know, it was very obvious you didn't know. Remember when we were all back in the day trying to figure out access, right? That was, I don't want to date myself here, but that was one of the very first products that I built myself. It was very powerful, but if you weren't using that software correctly, it really had a way of punishing you. Those days are over.
Yeah, and even just the interfaces have shifted, right? Speaking of access, an example comes to mind of somebody I was talking to that has a quoting system built on access still. And they're like, oh, well, it's going to be really complicated, and whatever the solution is going to be very complex because we have a lot of data points. And I'm like, no, it's actually not. You could feed that into a model and build an agent, give it the parameters, and then just tell it to ask you the questions you need to answer. It'll give you your quote.
Yeah.
And it's just a chat. It doesn't need to be fancy UX, right? So I think he had a bit of a light bulb, I think. Because we overwork things in our head, and we get
well, again,
excited.
we think that there's something that has to happen before the try, and it's our way of keeping ourselves out of the game. Yeah. I have to say a lot of this is psychological. As humans, we don't want to be uncomfortable, and heaven forbid we try and we fail. That would just be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think those of us who are entrepreneurs and are business owners, failure is a lifestyle. But for us, we will shoot our shot no matter what, because we know if we don't, we miss out on an opportunity that could take us to a place that we've always dreamt of. So for us, it's second nature, but for most folks in their day-to-day, that's not a muscle they get to flex. So it's just, yeah, again, really important to go back to that first principle. There's no skill, just try. The try is the skill.
And then iterate, right? Iterate. There was another quoting example too, funny enough. They had built a tool that, looked on the map and then estimated a quote. Prior to this, they were quoting in 20 days. Now they're quoting in
20
4
seconds.
minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like it does all the research. It comes up with a probability score even, and it uses AI to do this. And then it gives you a range of, 3,000 to 3,600. And the person was like, okay, well, the next step we're going to do is we're going to have somebody review that, go on site, make sure that that makes sense. And I'm like, why? Just quote 3,600. And
What could happen?
And if you're wrong, fix it next time.
Yes. Or within your margins, whatever your error rate is, maybe you can absorb it in the business, right? Depending on how big it is and how big the model is. I think we have to understand that the normalization of failure not being absolutely perfect. It's not about precision necessarily, if depending on the business line that you're in. So we can take those expectations and we can categorize everyone as always having to be perfect all the time, but actually we can build a business around some margin of error. And that is the best way, in my opinion, to roll.
Well, on the flip side is they can send a quote in 5 minutes, and they can be, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on how they want to manage their margin, but they might win more deals than the person that's taking 20 days. And that probably offsets the risk, right? And I think once we talk through that, they're like, you're right, just like, let's just send the quote.
And also the hours saving in the effort, right? And to get a quote and to know whether or not that sale is moving forward, they've just shortened their sales cycle.
So there's the margin. They just built more margin because they're more efficient, right?
Exactly,
so
yeah.
It's interesting just working through these business processes with people, the things that actually matter, right? And the things that don't.
There's so much unlearning that is happening because speed is on our side with AI. And this is a perfect example, right? If we could go faster, if we could do 5,000 quotes in a year instead of 500, how are we worried that we're going to be losing money, right? Like our relationship to time needs to change. That in our current workday, a lot of us see that time is the value. It took me this long, therefore it's this valuable. And I think we are on the edge of a cliff of that completely changing to what is the outcome that I can get, and time isn't even on the table anymore. It's what is the value of the thing that I created, and don't ask me how long it took me, because that doesn't matter, right? But we take so much pride in something that we take time with, even the simplest things. I had a cohort of not-for-profit leaders, and I'm trying to train every chamber of commerce in Alberta with the core literacy around AI so that they can be advising businesses on what's real and what's not, right? They are at ground zero, especially in Alberta, where I would think it was over 90% of the businesses in Alberta are small businesses, right? So it's really important that the chambers are in it and they understand what's real, what's the hype, so that they can give good advice. And one of the leaders said to me, well, I take a lot of pride in my PowerPoints and the time that I spend on it. And I'm worried that if I use something like gamma.app, that it's only going to take me 5 minutes, but it's not going to look the way I want it to look. And I said to them, I've never walked out of a meeting thinking that the presentation was the highlight. It's the content.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to break up with that relationship with time that we have. And I think that's a real tactical way that a lot of folks every day would think about it. And then when you're thinking about your workflows, that's another example that you gave. That's a really important one.
Yeah. Very cool. So with technology and all this change moving, and we're okay with a bit of failure, but there are some risks, right? So AI introduces some risks, and obviously, people don't want to lose their job if they do something wrong. How do you talk to people about managing that and building it into their culture?
What I do is I start with the leadership team. If I can build the literacy around AI and a leadership team up to a college level, and I can do this within 6 to 8 weeks, then their expectations on their employees are right-sized. Okay, so when they're having a conversation in a one-on-one with one of their people and they're asking them, how did you bring AI into XYZ? And if the person doesn't have a response that is big enough to what they think it's supposed to be, then there's a disconnect between what we're doing. And there's a lot of this not enoughness happening. You're not moving fast enough. You're not using enough AI, but I don't know how, and I don't know how to do it safely. So it's a lot of this back and forth that is really causing a lot of tension in the workplace. But if we start with the leadership team and they understand and they are building it themselves so that they have firsthand experience on how AI wins in the Alberta workplace is a series of very small incremental reworks of workflow to get you a win, and then you tie it to this one, then you tie those two together, and then you take the next thing. And it's very incremental. So if I could train a leader to hold space in the teams for that exploration and then give them the tools that they need and the apps and the spend on the apps that are going to get them there. A lot of folks don't understand that in order to have some wins in AI, you have to spend some money on some software, and it's addition and outside to what you are spending right now, but it's not a big amount. I had somebody in the classroom last week say to me, well, it's so expensive, this app. And I'm like, what is expensive? Tell me what that means. Because right now I'm thinking like $4,000 or $5,000. He's like, no, it's $40 a month. And I was like, okay. So let's just talk about the larger win that $40 will give you. Now, if you hired an employee to do that, what are you spending? And we know the math on that, right? So it's understanding that the value that we get from the AI tools that we are bringing into our teams far exceeds the real value if we had to pay full price for what the real cost around that AI is. I try to right size it with people that if we really paid the full price for what ChatGPT even costs, none of us would be able to afford it. So get in there now while the tools, they are really commercializing and they're trying to get their market share. They're making it really cheap for us all to buy in so that they can build their moat around all of us. This is classic software sales. But take advantage of it right now while it's cheap, and $40 a month is cheap to experiment with these capabilities. The other part of it is when a leader has been a builder, they really understand the risks around data. And they know how to have a conversation with their employees around how do we pull something out? Do we need all of the information in that data set to try that thing? Can we use, say, Claude or Copilot to create synthetic data for us while we're experimenting? Are there ways that we can reduce risk? And again, a leader who's been a builder knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of a leader that is coming to you saying, well, you better make sure that's safe, with zero experience around what safety even means. And right now, safety isn't policy. It's not frameworks. It's your moral compass. And so in our programs, we actually have a whole week where we stop and we do a values exploration on every single individual so they know what they stand for. Because now that they've built AI, they need to map that to their internal compass so that they can have the conversation around what it really means to them to build something that might hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Right? And that policy and the law is never going to catch up to our speed. And frankly, I know that's by design.
Yes.
So you need to have an environment where you really know your leaders and you can trust your employees to make good decisions, but you have to allow them to bring their values into the workplace so that we can create that environment for that to happen. Yeah. Right? And that's a focused, conscious thing. It's very much a cornerstone of how we do things.
Yeah, very cool. Do you think leadership is becoming harder because of all this technology, or is it making it easier?
It's challenging us in new ways. Like, I think a lot of us as leaders, if you had asked us 3 years ago if we thought we would face a disruption this cataclysmic, we would have told you like, no, we're going to coast out. We've got everything that we need. We've all done the leadership training. I got executive coaching designations because I was trying to really challenge myself in my leadership and what leadership meant to me. And I had no idea how valuable that would be for this moment in time that we're in right now. So I would say leadership is about leveling up right now. And again, making sure that you can be the support system for your people. Don't just talk a big game, expecting them to deliver for you because they need your guidance. So I would say that leadership means more than it ever has before. And it's time, if you want to do it well, you got to invest in yourself to make sure that you're showing up the way that you can.
Very cool. What's your favorite app these days that you're using?
Oh my gosh, I have five. I say this, and with a lot of comes from a place of I'm in the rooms of about like 60 different organizations over the course of a week, so I can see what everyone else's top five is, and I'm always got checking mine. But in my workday, it's definitely rotates. I have a great relationship with ChatGPT. I've made this quite public. I mean, she's my number one employee, Ash. She's just banging. And for me, that's very helpful. It's where I kind of organize the framework of like what my day is going to look like, and where I keep sort of the brain trust of what's going on in my brain in one place. Then I'm usually inside of editing tools like Riverside for video. I do a lot of things like this where I'm collecting videos or interviewing folks, especially customers too as well. So I'm always getting transcripts because that is incredibly helpful for me. So I have two things for that, which is Fireflies AI, which I love, and also Fixer AI too as well, which has been life-changing in so many ways. So those two are my transcribing tools, which allow me then to bring all that into ChatGPT and help me organize, find themes, and really move things forward. Then a lot of what I do is create educational materials. So I can organize those thoughts, take them into gamma.app, and whip a deck up in 5 minutes or less, and be ready in that afternoon to go teach something that struck me in the morning was really important. That's brand new because I saw it either online or somebody sent something to me and I need to bring it into the classroom. So I'm right into Gamma, and all of this technology allows me again to lean into my gifts.
Yeah.
Right? There's no shortcuts here. I'm actually doing more work, like more per day, per minute, than like I can finally keep up with my brain. And so these apps allow me to do that. And then if somebody if they're talking to me, like if I go out to a coffee shop near here, somebody will always pull me aside and start talking to me about some app they want to build. And then, how much money do I need to build this? And then I go right to my phone and I go into lovable.dev and I build them a prototype in 30 seconds or less and just show them. And literally flip that switch in their brain that they don't need, again, a skill before the skill. Just talk to me the way that you did. Let's get that into a thread, and then let's get that into lovable.dev, and we're off to the races. On the social media side, I use Planable, so I can see if I'm posting content. I still do a lot of that myself, but I can go back every month and just see like what hit, what did people find interesting, so I can sort of spot trends in our student group and in our clients. And I think that's my hit list, I would say, of my all day, every day. But yeah, I'm like everyone else,
That's like
I'm
$100 a month in subscriptions.
all in,
Yeah.
right? And I am running a global education company that has an accelerator, classrooms running. I have a back office. I'm onboarding people. I'm interviewing. I'm running webinars. I'm in sales calls. I am one person. And because I have all of these tools, and they're just like, I took the time to slow down, to speed up. I learned a few of them, and then I just make them better, knowing that they have to be reworked all the time. So when we think about transformation, and this is a big conversation we had this week, transformation isn't a point in time. It is ongoing. So things that I built like in Zapier to onboard somebody, I'm going to have to go back now and rebuild a lot of that because the technology has moved where it can do more things at once, right? So instead of me having individual zaps, I now have one zap that can do 100 things. I'm going to have to go do that. So we're in that time where we don't want to get too attached to these apps, but the core skill that I have that teaches me how to build and how to make it efficient is the thing I just keep going back to over and over and over and just reworking it. And I think that's a muscle we don't have here. We're used to having one piece of software and living in it for a lot of years, but that time is over.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable with learning a new skill, right?
Yeah, but once you have that core skill, all of these apps are the same. You open them up, they all have the white box. It's like, what do you want to do today? And you just have to tell it, right? And then, of course, the output that it gives you is either a visual, like, I showed you earlier that really fun image I created on Nano Banana, which is a whole different style of prompting I didn't really know how to do. But I went in there and I tried. I didn't get great results. And then I just started reading. How do I prompt differently in Nano Banana? I have to be a film producer now. I didn't know how to do that. But after reading for a couple of hours, I went in and created a dynamite image. And now I'm like, I get it, right? So again, none of these things, I didn't have to go to a classroom for that. I just had to get to the try, fail, suck at it, go read, try again. And it slowly just got better and better and better, right?
Yeah. Ask your ChatGPT to make you a prompt for Lovable.
Yes.
Put that into Lovable. Yeah.
That is so powerful. You know, the idea of like, hey, chat, this is what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to take it into lovable.dev. Can you help me write that prompt? And it's like, sure thing, Christa. Would you also like a coffee with that? Yes, I would.
That's awesome. This has been super insightful, Christa. Thank you for coming today. If people want to find you and obviously learn a lot more, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, our website is tacit-edge.com. So tacit-edge.com. And you can always find me on LinkedIn. It's Christa J. Hill. You can find me on Instagram at christa.hill.ai. I'm full of these nuggets. And like I said to you, I jump out of bed to do this every morning. It's a passion and a mission. I want to make sure everyone in Canada feels supported, whether it doesn't matter what industry you're in, how old you are, where you're at in your journey. You're not late to AI. You're just maybe early in your journey. And let's kick it off together.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.